There are times when you read a quote and you say, "Oh my God, this is in one sentence exactly what I've always thought, but couldn't put it into the words to express." And this quote for me is from Dwight D. Eisenhower. Okay. In preparing for battle, I have always found that plans are useless, but planning is indispensable. What a fantastic quote. Now, obviously, we're not talking about battle in terms of war and stuff like that. We're talking about maybe a battle if you're running a business, if you're, just everyday life, whatever it is. Right. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about what this quote actually means and how it applies to everyday life. Because what Eisenhower is expressing here, and you see this all the time, right, among a lot of people, is there some people out there that make a plan and they go, "Oh, I have to stick to my plan. This is my plan. We have to stick to it," even if evidence is proving that maybe this plan, how it's being used, is not the correct path to go down, right? And what that leads to is disaster. If you're not flexible, if you're not willing to change from your plan at all, even in the face of evidence to the contrary, you are going to fail. But that doesn't mean that if you decide, "Hey, I'm opening up a business, don't need a plan at all," that that's also the way to go about it, right? Because the truth is, what what you need is, let's say I'm starting a business, right? And I have my plan. This is how things are going to go. And then 3 months in, I take a look at how my business is operating and say, "This is great, right? This is great, but this stuff is just not working." You change the things that aren't working and keep the things that are doing well. But if you don't have that initial plan, if you don't have that initial, "We're going to try these things out," you may never even get to that spot. So that's why when I saw this quote, it just really, like I said, spoke to me because it's only one sentence, but it really tells a story of, like I said, this probably is being talked about as it pertains to, like, war and stuff like that. And we're not talking about that, but we're talking about from a business perspective or a life perspective. This is a quote, use it as much as you can, right? When you're talking about your business, when you're talking about, how you're getting through something or whatever it is, because this is the true path, right? Where anytime you want to go into something, have some sort of plan for what you're doing, but also understand that that plan, when you're starting your business and you write up that initial plan, that everything that's in there at some point will likely be changed. And I'll give you an anecdotal example in my own life with, so this is one of our YouTube channels, but I have a bunch of YouTube channels, right? They're all different things: sports, wrestling, gaming, finance, all of it, right? And basically, I just said, let's take all my interests, let's make channels, and we'll see which ones are successful. And I could tell you this. So we have two of them that are monetized right now, out of the bunch, right? And we're trying to get the rest monetized. But for the two that were monetized, we could just start with those, or even some that aren't. My initial content strategy, my initial plan, how I made content, has shifted enormously from when I started. And part of that is because of, maybe I was like, "Oh man, you could make a short this way, you could do this, you could do that." And your plan, that if we go back and we look at my initial planning document for each channel, the goal is still the same, right? The path is still the same, but the plan to get there completely changes. The plan to actually how it works completely changes, right? And part of that's due to, obviously, I want to make videos that the audience wants, right? I want to make videos that people actually want to watch. So in some instance, even if it's something I wanted to do, maybe it's like, "You know what, let's shift to this style of content," right? Or it's saying, "Oh, actually, we could utilize, I was able to get this, there's like this software in a computer that you just hit a button on your keyboard while you're in a game and it captures the last minute." I think it's Steel Series. That's the name of it. And that was a huge boost because now I could take the most exciting moments, create highlight videos out of those. I could make them into shorts if they're good for short form content. But the point is, going into it, my initial plan I didn't know that was going to be the case. I didn't know I was going to be able to utilize this, or that that was something I would even be interested in. But the point is, because I had the initial plan, I was able to grow the channel as I learned. But if I didn't have any initial plan and I just went in there and was like, "Oh, we'll do this, we'll do that," it would have been a complete failure. right? It would have been a complete failure because you need that initial plan to get yourself started and to be able to test actually what you want to do. If you don't have that, you're going to just kind of be like grasping for a little bit of everything. So that's why I wanted to do this video on this quote. And even actually, another anecdotal thing here, even what we're doing on this channel right now, I've tried a lot of different things with this motivation channel, and we're still going to be trying more. The problem is this is one of those channels where it's like I have my other ones, so this one isn't necessarily like priority one all the time. But this is a new style I want to do just because I want to bring something, right, that catches the eye of people that are listening. And hopefully you take a quote like this and you can apply it to, if you're starting a business, if you're doing your own YouTube journey, whatever you're doing, hopefully you take this and you apply it and you say, you know what? Thank you, Eisenhower, right, for this quote, because this is that thing where maybe you thought this, like this was me, right? I have thought what this quote means for since the beginning that I started my YouTube channels, right? This was it, but I couldn't put it into the words like this, right? And so when you see a quote like this, it allows you to really concisely go, boom, that's it. So thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time.